Happy Telling Tuesday! How's your week going? Are you still enjoying summer? Have kids gone back to school? Do you have any more adventures ahead of you? Whatever it is, I hope you're enjoying it. I've certainly enjoyed working on this story. As the story's developed and the characters have come to life, I've found myself reflecting on how hard it is to communicate with those we love, even in the best of circumstances sometimes. And I'm always grateful for the ability to keep trying and for the patience of those I'm communicating with. The fable this week is The Two Goats, and the creative spark that I'm going to be displaying is give a character in the story a disability or a hardship and see where it leads the story. Here you go. Gilbert the goat lived on one side of a chasm, a steep cliff wall where only a mountain goat can survive. And believe it or not, Gilbert survived and thrived even though he was blind. He felt as if he saw with his hooves. On the other side of the chasm, on the rocky surface that was there, lived Gordon the goat. Also a fine specimen of that creature. Gordon had spent his life never making a sound. He was mute. No one had ever heard him bleat out, "Ma." And yet, he had found his own ways to communicate, stomping his hooves in patterns and using a nudge of his head. Well, these two goats, Gilbert was mostly unaware of Gordon there on the other side of the chasm, and Gordon could only catch glimpses of Gilbert here and there. But one day, the two of them found themselves at a certain spot in the chasm where a log had fallen, who knows when, and wedged itself in between the two stone walls, creating a bridge. And Gilbert arrived there at the log, prepared to cross. A very, very skinny log, I might add. And as his hoof came down on the log, he felt the vibrations, and he thought, "Oh, it must be an earthquake. I must rush across." But on the other side, unbeknownst to him, it was not an earthquake. It was simply Gordon stomping his hooves to say, "I am here. I am coming." And the two, of course, collided in the middle and fell off the log down, down, down into the river below. Rushing pell-mell with the river, the goats went down, down, down until the river let them out in the valley meadow below. Gilbert got out on his side amazingly, Gordon on his, and they began making their way back into the mountains where they felt at home. Well, believe it or not, they made their way back and happened to arrive at the log bridge the same time some days later. Gilbert cautiously put his foot on the log, felt vibrations, and knew this time it was not an earthquake. It must be someone saying, "It's safe to cross." Gilbert headed on across, not knowing that Gordon on the other side was simply trying to communicate even harder than he had before. "It is I, and I am coming." Down into the river the two goats went again, feeling as if the river was trying to steal their breath. They got spit out in the meadow as they had before, feeling very much that they were not happy with how these days were going. They had no desire to fall into the river. Back to the hills they went, nimbly walking along the edges of the cliff, making their way back to the log. This time, when Gilbert's hooves touched the log, he waited Was there someone there? Was someone trying to communicate to him? Gordon, on the other side, saw Gilbert and realized his past communications had not gone over well. So he stayed as still as he could and watched as Gilbert finally cautiously made his way across the log. And once he'd found his footing on the other side, well, Gordon nudged him to say, "I am here." And he found it was much easier to communicate "I am here" with a nudge than it was to communicate "I am coming" with a pounding foot. And the two found that they liked it better on the same side of the chasm, and they liked it better when they were close so that they could communicate. I hope that you can find it easy to communicate your thoughts and feelings with those you love. And I hope you do it with a story. Have a wonderful rest of your week. I'll see you next time.